Comic-Con is coming.
Hey guys, so this one's going to be a recorded thing. I've been spending a lot of time outdoors today and just in my own head, kind of getting a lot of good insights, thinking about some things I've been reading and watching lately, and I thought I'd try to put it coherently for you guys to hopefully gain some perspective from. One of the things that I've been focusing on a lot lately is how the mind really works, because the mind, our brains, is the vehicle through which we are able to exert our will on reality. And that's where basically the seat of all of our magic comes from, because all things, whether they're or before they're created, always start as an idea in the mind. Now, I don't know if anybody else can relate to this, but my brain goes crazy when it comes to, like, I always have lots of trains of thought going, and my brain always just seems scattered at times. So I've been trying to figure out how to really kind of compartmentalize that and slow it down. And with my research into various, understanding of like psychology with how the brain works, and listening to some other philosophical people, I always hear a lot about how, we have to kill the ego. The ego is bad. You have to learn how to outwit the ego. Now let's go into some Freudian psych stuff. My bachelor's is in psych, and I'm going to be reaching back nearly, half a decade or so, or maybe even a decade at this point. Actually, yeah, it would be a decade at this point to when I was just starting my psych classes. But so, talking about the death of the ego, right? We have to outwit the ego. We have to kill the ego. I think that's a little kind of off-placed. Now, let's look at those three aspects of the mind as defined by Freud. So you have the ego, the superego, and the id. So the superego knows everything that's just and thinks about societal rules. Then you have the id, that's all about me, I want this. I go towards pleasure, I run away from pain. The fight or flight, the need for food, sex, all that stuff. Then in the middle, you have the ego that tries to balance both of those. Well, when you're going through your mind trying to trap your ego, I was listening to some other stuff this morning, where basically if you're ever trying to slow down your thoughts, the thought of slowing down your thoughts in itself is a thought. So you're really kind of shooting yourself in the foot by trying to capture it. The ego itself, with trying to balance things out and find its way in the world, really is the exact seat of your consciousness that you're sitting here listening to me talk from. And let's look at the other two aspects of the mind. So you have the superego that's like, hey, did you pay your bills? You pay your taxes? Is your house clean? You got all your stuff in order? You have a job, all that stuff. And am I doing right by society? And then you have the id, which is about, hey, what's pleasurable for me right now? What could I go for? I think that the id is more of a challenge and more of a good target to go forth in outwitting and kind of circumnavigating than the ego. Because the ego really just tries to filter things out of, hey, like I have to balance this pleasure thing that I want with this responsibility thing that I want. I think that's a good thing for everybody to have, and I think that circumventing the id is more important because it goes along with the, what's a want versus a need. The id just goes for what it thinks about at the time, which might be something good, going for, like pursuing a relationship, or it might go towards something bad, like if you want to buy something but you really shouldn't spend the money on it. And really getting control of that would be a very important thing to do to conserve your energy and to really slow your mind down so you can focus on better things. If you're able to kind of just coast along with life, not being like, ooh, in this moment I want this, I want that, I want this, oh God, I gotta worry about this. Just being accepting and detached from everything, just being observant from the seat of the ego, not letting the id take too much control, and not letting the superego keep you from having any fun, then that is where everybody should sit. Now, magically speaking, when we are able to kind of suppress the id and just let him out, let him have his fun once in a while, how else are we going to get pleasure out of life? And suppressing the superego with not always having to have our shoes tied, and not always having to work exactly on time, and not always having to drive the speed limit, maybe going a couple of miles over, whatever, Well, with balancing the superego, that would be more like, yeah, you pay your bills on time, you appease it. But when you have those ducks in a row and you're not going too much excess on either side, then you have a truckload more energy. It's in your ego that you can use for magical purposes. If you're pushing the id down too much, saying, no, you can't have that, no, you can't have that, no, you can't have that, then you're going to have all of these intents, all of these wishes that you never got fulfilled because it's like, hey, I want that. Hey, I wish this would happen. And it doesn't work. And then you can kind of think of the id as like a kid in the corner. It's like, I didn't get my way. Damn. You got to work with the energy of those lost intents, and that will bring more energy for your ego. So the way you work with those things is anytime that you've had something that didn't go your way, or you have a regret about something, you would view it over in your mind, relive it, whatever the feeling or scene of that is, thank that event for it happening that way, and realizing my favorite quote for this kind of thing is, what happened happened and couldn't have happened any other way. How do we know? We are still alive. Well, from the Matrix. That's kind of how you got to work with, letting go of regrets and retrieving lost intent in this way. Anything that didn't go your way or anything that was painful. What kind of intention did you have for that situation to be? Well, it didn't turn out that way. Well, that energy you still threw out there, you got to get it back. So you revisit it. You're like, okay, I put this energy into it. You breathe it back in, and then that magical energy in itself comes back to you. Now, that energy you can use with your ego, balancing your id and your superego of the wants and needs of yourself versus the wants and needs of society, and that energy can be used for whatever magical purposes you want. So you would look at your id and your superego trying to figure out what spell would be good, or what kind of ritual thing you would need, something that would be good for you but would also benefit society. A little segue here. When it comes to working any magic, of course, we have to kind of think about how is that going to affect myself, and how is that going to affect everybody else. It's the same thing, balancing the id and the superego. So I kind of hope this made sense with the way that the id, the ego, and the superego works. I know that there's a lot of talk about how to circumvent the ego, but I think that working with the id and being able to kind of balance that and escape the impulses that the id may bring about fear or want or anger or any of those things, being detached from it and just being an observer when those kinds of things happen. When your id flares up, I need this, I want that. Okay. You listen to it, you say, okay, I understand that didn't happen, and you just let it be. And then your id will just kind of go in the background, be like, okay, I guess it didn't work out for me this time, but it'll work out next time, maybe, who knows. And your ego is the boat by which you flow down the river of your consciousness. But you also have to balance those two partners on your boat. Hopefully this made sense. Been a little bit of an exhausting day trying to get these thoughts out. I thought this would be a much easier format than doing it on video, and hopefully you guys can tell me if this made sense. So, any last thoughts? Just hope it made sense. Good hunting.